Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of arguably the best show here on Outpost Unknown, the most consistently awesome show, the most consistent release schedule-wise show on Outpost Unknown, Full Moon Fridays.
You get that one. You get the last one.
You know, I throw everything at a wall and hopefully something sticks. My name is Matthew. Joining me once again on this trek that we're going through. First, we thought it was going to be like an epic Hobbit-style journey. And as we're making our way through the Subspecies franchise, I think we were almost thinking maybe we should turn back around. Maybe we shouldn't continue on. What are we talking about today, Steve?
We are talking about Subspecies 4, which is either known as BLOODSTORM or The Awakening, depending on what your source is.
They thought he was dead. They forgot about the Bloodstone.
An innocent corrupted.
This boy child has been ravaged by a vampire.
Please, kill me.
A creature of pure evil.
Radu Vladislas is a figment of folklore.
He has pursued her relentlessly.
As my child.
What brings you to Bucharest, Master?
Vengeance.
He'll find me.
She has fought him for her humanity.
I'm your master. You cannot deny me.
Now, they will face each other one last time to decide who will possess her soul.
Let there be a bloodbath.
We must destroy him, Master.
Subspecies 4.
You're mine. Forevermore.
Bloodstorm.
Multiple ridiculous, stupid titles.
Yeah, and I just played it behind me, so you can see it in the background. It says the Kushner Lock Company presents. Now,
make sure you put like a flashing lights warning on this video. That you're going to have that in the background.
Please, anybody who might have epilepsy, you're not going to want to watch this episode at all, because the opening credits of this movie is one of the most ridiculous opening credit things I've ever seen. But we'll get there.
And even if the credits weren't there, you weren't going to want to watch this movie anyway.
I think it was more entertaining than part 3. Maybe not in the ways that Ted Nicolau wanted us to think it was more entertaining, but I think I had a better time watching it because I was so fucking confused as to what I was seeing. But a little bit of background here. Once again, this was written by Ted Nicolau and directed by him, which I'm pretty sure all of the Subspecies movies are. I think the Subspecies was originally an idea concept in Charles Band's brain, and then Ted Nicolau just kind of took it and run with it. This one, now we've made our way through the first 3. I liked the first 2 quite a bit. Steve did not. We got to 3. I really did not like 3, and Steve thought it wasn't good, but that was his favorite. And now we're heading into part 4 here. Now, this was released in 1998, so this was not shot with the other Subspecies in the early 90s. A little bit of background on Full Moon at the time. Full Moon in 1989 got this really sweetheart deal with Paramount Pictures. Of course, everybody knows Paramount Pictures. They're one of the major Hollywood studios out there. And for the longest time, Paramount sort of bankrolled Charles Band in Full Moon. So all these movies that came out that we know and love, including the Subspecies movies in the early 90s, that was all financing that came from Paramount. Well, shenanigans occurred. It's a little sketchy on what happened during that early time. Funds got misappropriated, overspent, whatever you want whatever you want to think happened probably happened. But Paramount eventually said, we're not financing you anymore. There was a specific movie, I think it was Ragdoll. It was supposed to come out in 1992. Paramount paid for it, and there's some sort of shenanigans where it never got filmed, but they kept telling no. Every time a Paramount person would call and ask them, "Where's this movie that we paid for to put out there?" I think in this book, it came from the video aisle. It was basically like, just tell them we're filming it now, or we are in reshoots, or whatever, and they hadn't even begun filming it yet. They were literally just building sets years after they told them that they were going to make it. And eventually, Paramount got pissed and cut ties with Full Moon, and so Full Moon then had to find. You can see the flashing in the background right now.
Jesus, that is awful.
Opening credit sequence of this movie. It's wild. I'll play it here. Again, if you have issues with epilepsy, fast forward. Do not watch this part. But anyway, Charles Band needed financing. He needed to make more puppet movies and more subspecies movies. So he hooked up with this group, Kushner and Locke. And one of the interesting things about this movie, Steve, I know you and I both noticed this, Full Moon's name isn't anywhere on it. So when you watch the opening credits, it does not say Full Moon. It says like Kushner Locke production. And Kushner and Locke were basically people that came in and saved Charles Band. The problem was the quality of everything started going real downhill. So from 89 to 94-ish, mid 94-ish, Full Moon would put out a lot of product. But just to give you an idea, the 5 years they were with Kushner and Locke, they put out 80 movies in 5 years.
Jesus.
80 movies. And the budgets went way down. In this book, I was sort of reading about Subspecies 4. And Ted Nicolau said basically they were nickel and diamond everything. They said we want it cheaper, whatever you can make it as cheap as humanly possible. And I think we'll discuss it. I think this is kind of reflected in the quality of Subspecies 4 and just in terms of how it looks. But this was a Subspecies movie that was put out there. Vampire Journals came out right before this, like the year before. And we will talk about Vampire Journals. We're going to talk about that after Subspecies 5, because that'll be our next episode. And then we're going to go into Vampire Journals. Now, the reason why Vampire Journals is important is that it does tie in with Subspecies 4. There are certain characters that cross over, but the Vampire Journals movie itself is not really, it doesn't have anything to do with the other Subspecies movies. I think they just mention Radu once in that entire movie. But it's its own thing. So we're going to watch that after Subspecies 5. We're going to just knock out the Subspecies franchise first, take a little breather with Vampire Journals, and then dive into Puppet Master, all 13 or 14 of those movies. Which
in chronological timeline order.
Yes, chronological order. So if you want to know, people, what we think of the Puppet Master movies going in chronological order, you know what to do. I'm not going to say it, but you know what to do to make sure you get those videos. So that's kind of the backstory here. The backstory is it was made incredibly cheaply. Ted Nicolau, I watched the video zone for this one, and Ted Nicolau is kind of strange because he says he wanted to come up with a way to definitively kill Radu.
I set out in Subspecies 4 to kill Radu definitively. So that people who have watched this series up till now will feel some sense of closure for Denice, for Radu, and it's over. But
I was confused because I feel like he was definitively killed in part 3. Like, I was like, I guess the subspecies show up at the very end, so you just assume he's going to be revived somehow by the subspecies, and we'll get to that if he actually is revived by the subspecies or not. But he just kind of was like, "Hey, yeah, This is the final one." He said, "This is the final subspecies. I wrote this as the grand finale. We're killing off Radu permanently."
As I was killing him in this movie, I thought, die, you bastard. This is the end of this series.
And then at the end of the video zone, and this came out probably in '98, he's like, "Well, I miss Romania, and maybe, we could make another one down the road."
Having finished it, and missing Honest a little bit because he lives in Denmark and we just talk by phone, and missing Denice because she lives in LA but we still just talk by phone, and missing Romania and missing Adolfo, I don't know. I think maybe he could come back.
And that other one would become Subspecies 5 like 20 years later when Charles Band finally had the money to be able to make these movies again. Because for the longest time, he had nothing at all. And I think it will show in the quality of not only this and subsequent movies, but the Puppet Master franchise in general as it moves on and on.
The quality of the Puppet Master films is a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Starts strong, gets real bad, and then there's kind of like the later movies maybe aren't good, but they're entertaining at least.
Yeah. Well, at least in my head, they were entertaining. Yeah. So we'll see if our opinions change as we go through it. Now, Steve, you're not enthusiastic about this franchise so far. I ask you this every single episode now. What were your thoughts going into Subspecies 4? How are you feeling going into that one?
Are you defeated? Envying the dead? I had my excitement level was like at nothing, and the movie somehow still failed to meet my expectations in spite of that. Yeah, this franchise has been real. What's funny is, I kind of revealed back when we did the first movie that like I had never seen it before. I had tricked myself into thinking that I had seen it, but I actually hadn't. I don't know if I had seen a sequel or maybe I just saw bits and pieces, but not the whole movie through. But even despite that, my memory is I never liked the Subspecies movies, and they have done nothing to change my mind so far. This franchise is kind of a dumpster fire.
I think that's largely fair. I can't really argue that. And we're going to talk about Radu, particularly in this one, or as I like to call him now, Radon't. Like Rad don't kill people when he has the opportunity. Rad don't do anything when he has the opportunity. And this was actually an interesting view because I had assumed I'd watched all of these. I have the Subspecies box set from back in the day. It's got all these movies in it. And I had just assumed I had seen this. When I started watching this, I'm like, if I have seen it, I had zero recollection of it. The entire movie through, not a single thing in this movie made me think, oh yeah, I remember that. This was like watching a fresh movie. I don't actually think for whatever reason I'd ever actually watched this, even though I thought I did. In part 3, I'd forgotten most of it, but I remembered certain parts of it. It's like, yeah, I know I've seen this movie before. This one was like night and day for me. And on one hand, it was kind of cool because I was like, ooh, I'm seeing a new Subspecies movie for the first time, so to speak. And then on the other hand, I was like, maybe it would have been better had I not watched this. But with that, let's go ahead and roll into it. Now, the first 3 Subspecies movies, fairly light on plot. I feel like this one is much more complicated in terms of things going on. So I'll turn it over to you. Take us through Subspecies 4, BLOODSTORM.
I'll try. So it starts with Radu, who recall at the end of part 3. And one thing that I will give this whole franchise credit for is that like every sequel takes place immediately after the last one.
Yeah.
It's like by the time like as far as I can tell, like the beginning of Subspecies 1 to the end of Subspecies 4 is like maybe a week and a half in universe here. It's a very strange thing. But recall at the end of part 3, Radu looks into the sun, which causes him to be set on fire, which is a thing that the son had never done before up until that point in the franchise. And then his flaming stunt double falls over the side of the castle and gets impaled on a tree. This movie begins immediately after that, where his charred corpse just wakes up and is like, sorry, go ahead.
Don't forget, at the very end of part 3, a little bit of Radu blood comes out, and we get some subspecies.
And they didn't have the money to redo the subspecies for this film, because the subspecies are never in this film at all. Like, even like that also stood out to me as very weird, because this is Charles Band. Or I guess this wasn't a Charles Band movie. Maybe the company that technically made this put their foot down and said no stock footage, because of all of the I guess developers or production companies that I would expect to use some stock footage, it would have been needed here. Like, why didn't they just take like the end of part 3 with the subspecies walking towards the Bloodstone and put it here? Regardless,
yeah, I don't even think in the opening epileptic seizure opening credits where it's flashing, because it's showing shots from all of the movies, I don't even think you see subspecies in that. I mean, I might be mistaken, but I don't even think you see one in there.
I mean, if you did, you saw them for a frame, because this opening is so jittery. Regardless, Radu, who was on fire and impaled, just wakes up in his charred body.
He's like in a puddle of water or something.
Yeah, his body falls into a puddle of water. He grabs the Bloodstone and then he just goes home. And then later on he just revives. So how do you kill this motherfucker? I don't know.
The Bloodstone brought him back, I would suppose.
Yeah, the mysterious power of the Bloodstone.
That's why he wants it. We've just solved it. Brings him back every time he dies.
It would be really neat for that to be in the movie instead of us having to make up bullshit to fill in plot holes in this franchise. Regardless, Radu is back. The movie, like, there's also like coinciding with this is like a very short narration from Michelle that's like, we thought that Radu was dead, but we forgot the Bloodstone, and then Radu revives, and then we get the 3-minute like epilepsy trigger of just I'm not even like, Matt might put it in the movie, but
I'll put it in there.
Seen it on the screen. It is bizarre. It's like a couple of frames of a random shot of previous movies, and then a couple of frames of just the word subspecies on screen.
And it's bouncing around different areas of the frame.
It's like a DVD like screensaver, like bouncing around all over the place with weird. Like random frames of the movie or of previous movies interspliced, and then there's another several minutes of opening credit. That was just the title sequence. So there's like several minutes of opening credits that show scenes from previous movies and this movie. I don't know who made the decision that needed to be in this film, but I hate them.
It's terrible. Yeah.
And so then, like, after the opening fuckery, we see a car and a woman that we learn her name is Anna. And so Anna is like driving down the street, and lo and behold, there is an overturned car crashed into a tree, and all of the survivors from the previous movie, Consulate Bro Mel, Sister Becky, and random girl that was saved from Radu, they're all dead. So they got nuded and hicksed at the beginning of this film.
Now the backstory to that is Ted Nicolau wanted them to be in this movie, but they were all busy with other stuff and couldn't make the shooting schedule, so he just decided to kill them all off.
I started out with a script that was going to pick up right where number 3 left off and carry on with the story of Michelle and Rebecca, Michelle's sister, and Mel Thompson from the U.S. Embassy. Wrote a script that in which they took Michelle to a clinic and tried to cure her of her vampirism, either through blood transfusions or whatever kind of nutty Romanian scientific technology might exist at the time. Wrote that script, and then when we set about trying to get everybody back together again, and Honest got aboard really fast. Denice really wanted to do it. Melanie was kind of busy with her own career at the moment, and Kevin suddenly got a soap opera and couldn't do it. So I kind of went back to Charlie and said, you know what, maybe we've got to rethink this, because I couldn't really see continuing the series without the same actors. So we went back to an idea that we had always kind of played with when we were shooting Subspecies 2 and 3, when I'd be sort of pissed off at everybody, and I'd say, you know what, in Subspecies 4, you guys are going to die in a car wreck.
What would they, like, think about this plot that we got. What would they have done if they were in this movie?
We do get a returning character from the last movie in this, and he does absolutely nothing in this movie, which you'll probably get
Yes.
to. Marin, he can, spoiler, Marin's back. He does nothing.
Yeah. I don't get why Marin was brought back. Regardless, all of the heroes from the previous movie are dead, and Anna calls the police, but then Michelle revives in the body bag, and so Anna takes Michelle to a hospital, a random hospital that just also happens to be like across the street from another crypt that is of relevance to Radu, and
the hospital just so happens to have previously been like a convent or something. It's sacred ground. Radu can't.
It used to be some sort of holy. It's built on holy ground. Radu. They make it a plot point that Radu can't enter without an invitation. But Michelle is taken in, and there's another doctor that we learned that his name is Dr. Blood, creative. Dr. Blood's like, oh, vampire. Michelle's a vampire. I can tell these things. Like, don't worry, Michelle. It just so happens that I have been working on treatment for vampires that will like ease your suffering.
That's the thing I do. That's what I do. Don't question it. This is what my whole focus has been on, my studies. Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Blood is going to he says at one point that he can't make her immortal again. He can't, make her not a vampire, but he can, make it so that she doesn't suffer. Maybe she doesn't need blood. Maybe
you can see him right there in his weird eyes, his creepy eyes.
Creepy.
The close-ups in this movie, man. Oof.
Why is this operating room orange? Like, it looks so bizarre that I thought that it was like bad green screen at first, but you told me that like this is actually shot on locations. I don't know, but they're in an operating room that is completely orange for some reason. Anyway, so Dr. Blood is going to try to treat Michelle. Radu wakes back up. He's fully recovered now, and he just makes his way into Bucharest and goes into another crypt. So he's got a crypt, and like his mom's crypt was like across the street from that, and now his buddy Ash's crypt is across the street from that one.
There's so many crypts in Romania, Steve.
There's like apparently there's an entire like underground labyrinth of crypts in Bucharest and Romania, and it's full of vampires. But Radu revives. He goes to this crypt and he walks into Ash's house, Ash's crypt. And Ash is a vampire. I haven't seen Vampire Diaries, but I understand that Ash is a character from Vampire Diaries.
Vampire Journals.
And Vampire Journal, sorry. And Ash has his own like vampire junior servant named Serena, and
she looks like Helena Bonham Carter. She's
got
Helena Bonham Carter hair, yeah.
But Radu has a very like odd relationship with Ash because Radu turned Ash into a vampire, and Radu just walks in, and Ash addresses Radu as master, and everything that Ash owns is also partially belongs to Radu because they have the master-servant relationship. At the same time, Ash somehow stole various things from Radu, including this entire crypt. So it's like technically Radu owns this crypt, but Ash has it, even though Radu thinks it was stolen. Like, what the hell is going on with this dynamic between Radu and Ash?
Our wealth has multiplied.
It is easy to profit from the corruption of mortals. The casino and brothel keep us well supplied with income and victims.
I grow lonely in Transylvania. Perhaps I'll stay in Bucharest and reclaim my holdings.
I think what the thing is, and if I remember Vampire Journals, the because they only mention Radu's not in it. They just mention him briefly, and like you said, Radu is sort of like he turned this guy long ago, and Bucharest, like Radu was not hanging out in Bucharest. Radu was in Transylvania or wherever he was at in the very first movie, in that weird village. And this guy has basically been running like a whorehouse and a casino and making tons and tons of money. So it's one of those things where when Radu shows up, he's like, "Look, man, I'm your master. What's yours is actually mine, and you must give it all to me." And Ash is like, "I'm going to get kicked out of my career. I got a swell thing going here. I don't really want to, lose all of this stuff." On the other hand, Radu is the most powerful vampire in the world, and oh my gosh, we should not go against him. Even though he doesn't do anything at all, everyone's scared of him, even the other vampires. And so, yeah, that's kind of the dynamic. Ash doesn't like that Radu's come back, but he can't do much.
Radu makes frequent comments that Ash stole all of this from Radu, and Radu takes the thievery in stride, I guess.
Well, it's because he can't do anything. What's he going to do? Because he says it. He tells Serena or whatever when she was like, "Let's kill Ash. Let's knock him off or whatever." And he's like, "Kill one of our kind? That is forbidden." I'm like, dude, you just killed your dad? You killed your brother? What are you talking about? It's forbidden.
And also, like, later on, you do decide that you're just going to kick Ash out. So, like, Radu is, like, complaining that the writing in this makes no fucking sense.
No sense.
So many contradictory things, which we'll talk about more later. But, anyways, like, my main point here is Radu is frequently harping on the fact that he feels Ash stole all of this stuff from him, and then takes no action whatsoever to reclaim all of this. Anyways, Radu is down in Ash's crypt, and Ash says, "We've got a brothel, we got a casino, we have like infinite wealth, we have infinite victims." Radu says he's gonna stay down on like the 7th level, and Ash says, "Well, hey, do you want me to send a plaything down for you? We have infinite victims from the casino. You can pretty much do like anything you want to these people, short of kill them, and no one will ask any questions." And Radu's just like, "I'm gonna take your girlfriend."
"I will amuse myself with your protege."
And so he grabs Serena and takes Serena down to the 7th level. And Serena is immediately like, hey Radu, how about you and me team up to kill Ash? Because Ash doesn't appreciate the hunt like he should. And so Radu says, "Pledge your loyalty to me. Call me master." And Serena says, "Yes, okay, master." And then the next morning they wake up, and Radu is like, "You're not my servant. Go back to Ash. Yeah. He's your master."
Kicks her out of bed.
"Return to your master. You are not my fledgling."
Go back. Sorry.
Yeah, there's no implication that they fucked or anything. They just like laid down in the crypt together, and Serena got a few sips of the bloodstone. But like this master servant relationship between Serena and Radu lasted for about 6 hours, and then he punted her back to Ash. And so
I like that scene when I like that scene when he's on the piano. He's like, "Dun dun dun." He's like all forlorn and everything. That was a cool moment.
Yeah.
We must destroy him, master.
So anyways, back in Dr. Blood's world, it's revealed very soon after that there's some titties in the background for Matt to cover up.
Damn it.
It's revealed that Dr. Blood is also a vampire. With a name like that, how could it be anything but a vampire? But Dr. Blood is a vampire. It's a little bit on the nose there.
Yeah.
Dr. Blood is a vampire,
On the
and
fang.
the reason The reason he has so much like vampire knowledge is because he is a vampire and he's been using science to protect himself. Uh, his ultimate goal is he wants the Bloodstone. Like he immediately like knows who Radu is and the Bloods, and no one ever questions like how could you possibly know all this. But he wants the Bloodstone. He can't get the Bloodstone as of yet, so he's getting a little bit of Michelle's blood. I guess there might be some residual Bloodstone juices in there. He also roofies Anna,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
he doesn't bite Anna. He has a little knife that he carries on. And he like stabs her in the thigh and then gets
Yeah.
in some Anna blood.
Inner thigh starts going to
Yeah.
town. Problematic, Dr. Blood.
Very problematic. But he's gonna go and get Michelle. He knows that Radu is coming. He's like, Radu is not dead. Radu is going to come and get us, and that's where he reveals that this hospital used to be like, I don't know, a monastery or something. So he has to be let in. But they prep some vampire weapons, and so they've got giant stakes. They make flashlights out of bulbs from a tanning bed, which I guess is good enough, is just as good as someone being out in the sun.
UV. It's the UV stuff.
That's fucking stupid. So he's prepping for Radu to attack. At the same time, he's kind of making it known that his care for Michelle is bullshit. He just sees her as kind of like a lab rat essentially. He does start like performing tests on her, like we're gonna take all of your blood out and filter it and put all the blood back in. That his experimenting on Michelle ultimately goes absolutely nowhere in this movie. It's just like we got time to kill. Let's have them do something.
And it's so weird because Denice Duff is back once again as Michelle, and for the first half of this movie, she's nothing. She's just strapped to a table.
Tied to a table.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Michelle, her motivation as a vampire changes like 16 times in this movie. Sometimes she wants to die. Sometimes she wants to live with the Bloodstone. Sometimes she's fine living as just a vampire. Sometimes she's dedicated to Radu. Sometimes she hates Radu. It is bizarre the number of like twists and turns that Michelle goes through in just like a couple of minutes in this film.
Yeah, it's weird.
There's also, you want to talk I'm looking at this scene on the video behind Matt, and this reminded me, this is so stupid. There's a detective that goes up to the hospital. He's following up on the fact that Anna called in like a car crash. And he's like, "Oh, Anna, why didn't you stay there?" And Anna's like, "I had patients." And he says, "Was there anyone else there? Like my good friend Detective Marine is missing." And then we get a flashback of Radu, we think killing Detective Marine.
Stabs him like in the neck or something, right?
Stabs him and then bites him. And I don't remember if we actually saw the bite in the last movie. I feel like we didn't. But I'm watching the scene and I'm thinking, oh, they just did a flashback to show us, hey, remember Detective Marine? Just in case you forgot, here's the flashback. And then it cuts to actually Detective Marine, who revives. Detective Marine is back in this movie for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so Detective Marine goes and has this stupid like Mr. Bean style adventure where he goes back to the police station and he eats a sandwich out of a drawer and he pukes it up because it's not blood, and then he finds a rat and eats it, and then he falls asleep in the cabinet of this police station, and then the next morning his detective buddies find him in the cabinet and think that he's drunk, and they send him away, and he stumbles into another crypt, and he gets himself locked in the crypt, and so the next night when he comes back, like Radu has to go and rescue him. This is pointless. This entire like Marine adventure is so stupid.
And how does it end?
Anyway,
even stupider.
Let me back up a second. And we'll talk about this. So it's time for Radu to go and confront Dr. Blood. And so Radu is like, I'm gonna go get my fledgling. I'm gonna go get Michelle. And so Ash tells Serena a couple of things. One, he says, follow Radu. So Serena is like trailing Radu. And then he also says that I can't kill my master because it's not allowed, and you can't kill Radu because you're not strong enough, so find a mortal that will kill him for us.
Radu is my master, Serena.
But he's not mine. It would give me pleasure to watch him suffer.
You are no match for him. We must find a mortal with the will to destroy him.
And I want to put a pin in that because that gets real fucking stupid later on. So remember up here that Ash specifically told Serena to go and find a mortal that will kill Radu for us. So how does the detective Marine story end? Radu, when he says I'm going to go and find Michelle, he makes a pit stop in the crypt where Detective Marine is trapped, and Detective Marine is like, banging on the inside of the crypt, like, let me out, let me out. And then Radu like releases him and is like, give me whatever information you have. And Detective Marine like points him. I don't remember exactly what happens, but points him in a direction that allows him to find Michelle. And then immediately after that, Serena pops up, and Serena's like, "Oh, aren't you a pretty one?" And then she bites Marine again, which apparently kills him because he doesn't come back. So like, if you're a vampire and you get bit by another vampire, do you just die now? Like, I don't. It's fucking. Anyways, Detective Marine came back to go on this Mr. Bean adventure, and then Serena kills him. He has no relevance whatsoever in the movie. I don't know why he's there.
I would say that's. I mean, I don't think this movie's good by any means. I think that is like the worst part of this movie is his whole side quest that does nothing. There's no point to. You remove him from this movie and nothing changes. Nothing at all.
This movie is also longer, just not by much, but longer than the previous movies, and they could have had it, a tight 80 minutes like the previous ones if they had cut some of the crap here, including Detective Marine. Anyways, Radu goes to the hospital, and Dr. Blood meets him, and the gate is shut. Radu says, please invite me in, and Dr. Blood says no, and Radu says basically, help me out. First of all, Radu recognizes him as a vampire, and Dr. Blood admits that Ash turned Dr. Blood. So it's like it's Radu to Ash to Dr. Blood. So they're all part of the same bloodline. But Dr. Blood won't let Radu in, and Radu says, "All right, Dr. Blood, you're a scientist. My long life has given me an appreciation for science. You let me in, and I will give you 3 drops of blood from the bloodstone. So you can do whatever you want with that. You can science the fuck out of those drops from the bloodstone. You let me in and give me Michelle, and I give you blood from the bloodstone." And Dr. Blood says, "Yeah, okay." And so again, his care for Michelle was a facade the entire time. And so he lets Radu in, and Radu and Dr. Blood start walking towards the hospital, and then out come multiple like I guess orderlies from the hospital, and they've all got their tanning bed flashlights.
Yes.
And so Radu, this time light just like incapacitates him rather than setting him on fire, and they stake him. They stake Radu. So Radu is on the ground.
He just
like,
kind of falls. He's not burning or anything. He just kind of like falls to the ground.
It's just like he's like, itchy.
No smoke, no anything coming from him.
He's just like, I guess, in pain, but he's on the ground, and so they stake him, and they're like, all right, now we got to cut his head off. But then Michelle comes out. And Michelle, for a good part of this movie, is like either kill me or protect me from Radu, but pick one. But as soon as Radu is in danger, Michelle actually goes out and rescues him.
Yeah.
And so Michelle's like, she's gonna pull the stake out. And so Michelle tells Radu, like, if I do this, if I protect you, you set me free. And Radu is like, fine, do it. I agree to this. He like immediately like goes back on his word, but he says, like, do this and I will free you. And so Michelle is about to release Radu, and at no point in time does Dr. Blood or Anna say, "Hey, remember those anti-vampire flashlights that we had that renders a vampire completely like useless? They're just on the ground in pain." Apparently, all of those ran out of batteries at the same time because they just let this happen.
Yeah.
And so,
Michelle, it's so
bad. Michelle frees Radu, and Michelle immediately says, I am, I earned my freedom. You have to let me go now. And Michelle and Radu both just escape. I don't even remember like what the interaction between Radu and Dr. Blood is, but ultimately,
Because Radu turns to him and he's like, "You will all suffer immensely for this.
You will pay for this in suffering."
And then he runs away. Like a fucking shadow and flies away. And once again, Radu turns into Radon't. Why don't you just kill everybody right then and there?
Well, I mean, what if they change the batteries in their anti-vampire flashlight? Like Radu doesn't know. Maybe they got spare batteries that they're just like fumbling around with right at the time.
Ridiculous. This
movie's
guy
fucking
can
stupid.
teleport apparently at will wherever he wants to go. He's been invited in, so it's not like he's under any restriction from
No.
this place. So just kill all of these people right now. But again, time after time in this franchise, when Radu has a chance to kill the people who are going to cause him problems later on, he doesn't do it. And I'm actually curious. I'm trying to think, like, how many times does Radu actually kill anybody in this franchise? We should have kept track of that. Obviously, he kills his dad and his brother, but his dad was old as fuck and could barely move. He got trapped by the guy before the subspecies actually freed him. He killed.
Or does it count when he turns someone into a vampire? Because if not, then no, he killed his dad, and I think
He killed his brother, but his
he
brother
killed
wasn't.
Dad and Stefan.
And
Neither of those were threats to him. Otherwise, I think he just kills like random nameless pedestrians throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah, he does nothing. He does nothing. And yeah, the people that he does sort of turn, I guess technically are dead, but they end up being a hindrance to him because they cause more problems than good. So it's like Radu is Radon't. He's not a good vampire.
Anyways, this whole like interaction between Michelle and Radu and Dr. Blood, the result is everyone survives. And so Michelle is like, I'm gonna go do my own thing, and Radu follows her, and they kind of occasionally like work together to kill people and eat people. Other times, like Michelle's like, stay the fuck away from me. Ultimately, like Serena goes up to Anna and tells Anna, tells Anna and Dr. Blood that you, Anna, have to kill Radu. Like Dr. Blood can't do it because reasons. Anna, you have to kill Radu. And so I'm going to give you this key to Radu's crypt. And your goal is to go in the crypt during the daytime and kill him. And so Anna's like, okay, fine. So like Dr. Blood and Anna and their random hospital friend are like gearing up for this final assault on Radu's crypt. And then Serena goes back to Ash and tells Ash, hey, the plan's in place. I found a mortal who will go and kill Radu for us. And Ash says, you're working with a mortal. You're going to doom us all.
I found a mortal with the will to destroy him.
You conspired with a mortal.
I gave her the key to Vladislav's tomb.
You endanger us, Serena.
Like, this was Ash's fucking plan. Like, did I miss something here?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on because I was just as confused. I was like, wait a minute. He was the one that told her to go do this, and now suddenly, he's the writing. This is
the writing is real bad.
Easily of the 4 we've watched, this is the worst written subspecies movie because it literally makes no sense. It contradicts itself from scene to scene in terms of the plot, and the motivations of the characters change from scene to scene. There's no consistency in tone. It's just all over the map.
Yeah, I don't get it, but ultimately, like, I just watched this yesterday. I feel like I've already forgotten so much of this because it's just bad. But I believe that Michelle and Radu end up like working together again to some extent. Like he convinces Radu, he convinces Michelle to once again come and be my fledgling, and I will teach you all of the things. And so Radu and Michelle go back to Ash's crypt. and tell Ash, "Hey, Ash, you gotta get the fuck out."
Yeah.
Kicks Ash out of his house,
I'm
and so
Bucharest now, bitch.
yeah,
All your
he
shit is
says,
mine.
"Yeah, I'm claiming all of your stuff. You got to leave." And then Serena's like, "Well, you're not my master. You can't kick me out." And he's like, "You can stay." And so now, now like Radu is taking like Ash's house and his businesses and his girlfriend, but not before Ash or not before Radu like grabs a sword and is like, "Oh, this sword is the vampire slayer. You stole this from me during the Great War, the Black
The
Plague or
Sword
something."
of
And so that,
Laertes or something is
yeah,
what they
and
call it.
so now Radu has this sword from Castlevania, and he's leading Michelle to his crypt, and also Serena is there, and Ash disappears, and so now it's time for the final confrontation, and Anna and Doctor Blood are going to attack, and their plan immediately fails. Radu wakes up like well before Dr. Blood can do anything. And so Dr. Blood grabs Anna and is like, "Oh, I actually brought you a gift. Like, look, peace offering. Take this woman."
Poor Anna.
and yeah, Radu is like very interested in Anna because he Radu likes the ladies, and so Dr. Blood's like, I gotta leave. Like, my plan failed. I gotta get the fuck out of here. And then Radu's like, wait, Dr. Blood, you've earned a drink from the Bloodstone. And so Dr. Blood goes to get some blood from the Bloodstone, and then Radu beheads him with the sword of vampire killing. So he kills Dr. Blood.
That's true.
Radu killed someone.
And with a really bad, clearly like paper mache looking head. Like it looks real. Like the neck, it does not look good. Like the special effects do not look good.
So now it's just Anna and Radu and Michelle, and Radu once again the same thing he did with like Becky like 2 movies ago is like Anna, or he's like, "Michelle, uh feed on this new girl that I have, and that will show your devotion to me." And of course, once again, I barely remember how this ended. I just watched it yesterday, but I think once again this fails. Michelle kills him.
Well, Michelle takes like the axe or whatever and hits him like in the neck with it, and then he's like, "Ah!" And then Anna is the one that actually lops off his head.
Yeah. So keep in mind that at this point, Radu has been beheaded. He's been set on fire. He's been shot with silvered bullets. He's been stabbed in the head. He came back from all of this like a tiny slice across his throat. He's powerless. He can't. He's on the ground writhing in pain. And then Anna kills him. And they take Radu's head and they put it on a stake outside. The sun comes up. It begins burning. So Radu, I guess now is dead. He's been he's been beheaded. His head has been separated from the body, so it can't reattach anymore, and it's on fire. And then the movie just ends with a fucking voiceover where Michelle's like, "Radu's dead." And now, in overtime, the Bloodstone revealed its mysteries to me.
At last, I was in peace. In time, the Bloodstone yielded its mysteries to me. Radu Vladislas was returned to dust.
And credits.
Very abrupt, strange ending. Like, I'll let you go first. Your thoughts on the Subspecies 4?
Well, the franchise is 0-4 so far. This is easily the worst. It's the, like you talked about, like the tone between 2 and 3 was different. Like the tone between this and any other movie in the franchise is just bizarre. The look of this film is strange. So much of it takes place in an orange operating room, as opposed to the castle from the previous films. None of it makes sense. Characters' motivations change from scene to scene. Characters just forget what they said in the previous scene. Like, I still don't understand Ash telling Serena, go find a mortal to kill Radu. And Serena comes back and says, okay, I found a mortal to kill Radu. And Ash is like, what the fuck? Like, I don't get it. Nothing in this movie makes sense. This franchise sucks. Like, it's got 2 more chances to impress me, and I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, I have to say, you know, when I realized I'd never actually seen this one, I was kind of excited. I was like, wow. And as I was watching it, I think I was putting some chat in the Discord still as I was watching, like, I cannot believe, I don't even understand what I'm watching right now. It feels so completely different than the first 3. Now, obviously my big complaint with part 3 was I felt there was a tonal, like a wacky comedic angle that it took, you know, with Bob the CIA guy and all that stuff that I didn't like. This, there's no comedy really in it. It's not like a comedic film, but it just visually it looks completely different than the first 3. It looks cheap. I mean, there are so many tight close-ups of people's faces in this movie. It's almost,
Especially Dr. Blood.
yeah.
He gets a lot of unnecessary close-ups with his strange haircut and weird eyes and just orange behind his head.
Yeah, I mean, it just visually it looks different, and obviously Ted Nicolau had way less money. You know, they didn't have Paramount money that they could spend on this kind of stuff, and you know, he did what he could shooting in, you know, Romania, but it doesn't feel. It doesn't have that tone, that atmosphere, that gothic sort of dread that the first few movies had. This has like just a really cheap quality to it. It just looks like, you know, we're gonna slap something together as quick as possible. It feels like a cash grab is what it does. You know, it feels like Kushner and Locke offered Ted Nicolau some money, like, make us another Subspecies movie here because we want to make some money, but I'm gonna make it to you dirt cheap. And he's like, hey, yeah, this might be fun. Let me throw something together. I don't know, man. This is easily the worst. I mean, I did not like part 3 because of the tone, but at least it still had some visual stuff in there that I could latch onto. There's nothing in this one. Like, I don't like what they did with Denice Duff's character. The first half of the movie, she's gone. She's just on a table. I don't care about these vampire journals characters that pop up here. Like, I understand trying to connect the lore and the world and your various vampire stuff. I totally get that, but it should have been like a cameo, not like these characters having like a major role in this thing. Throwing Marin in there was so slapdash. It was like, why is he even in there? And like you said, that it was like this Mr. Bean adventure. I think they were attempting some sort of comedy with it, but it wasn't funny at all. It was just like,
No.
what is going on here? Like, I don't understand. And I don't like the fact that they Newton Hicksed, you know, Michelle and Consul Dudebell.
Why do movies have such a problem with recasting? I don't get it. Just do it.
I don't know.
Get new people to fill that role.
Yeah, and in the video zones, Denice Duff said she had been kind of retired from acting for quite a while because she had a kid and she was raising her kid, and then she was like, I didn't want anybody else to play Michelle because they were considering recasting her if she couldn't do it. I'm like, well, if you're gonna recast Denice Duff, why would you not recast the others? Like, give me the story. I would rather have Ted Nicolau give me the story he wanted to make initially, continuing with all these characters and what happens here, than creating this weird mishmash of. I mean, it feels like the script was written in a weekend, and there was nobody looked at it to read to be like, are there any problems with the script? Boy, this doesn't make sense from this. It was like thrown together. I'm sure it wasn't, but this is a big disappointment in terms of the Subspecies movies. Yeah, I didn't like it at all.
Pretty garbage. Again, 0 for 4. I feel like this franchise is a complete failure so far. I don't get the love it has. I don't get it. I'm struggling to see the pros.
I still love the first 2 movies. I still think the first 2 movies are great. 3, not so much. 4 is real bad. Now, with part 5, Blood Rise, which just came out last year, I think, we're going to do your favorite thing, Steve. We're going to a prequel. So this movie is going to tell us what happened before the events of the first subspecies and how Radu became Radu and all of that stuff. So maybe, just maybe, I mean, you did recently see a good prequel in Andor. You thought that was good.
It was
Maybe
good,
you're on a
not
winning maybe
great.
you're on a winning track here. Maybe Blood Rise will be the one film that brings it all together for you, and you're going to be like, wow. And maybe Ted Nicolau had 20 years to realize, okay, I know Steve's going to watch these movies and have all these complaints, and I'm going to write the movie that's going to fix all of the complaints for him, and he's going to look at the franchise with a new pair of eyes and be like, oh yeah, it all makes sense now. You think that's what?
Considering I've seen how low budget some of Full Moon's recent offerings are, I doubt it. I really doubt it. In
Congrats.
fact, there's probably like a good chance that like the Subspecies 5, I don't know, fuck yourself, is like
Blood fuck.
97%
Blood fuck.
That's what we're gonna make Subspecies 6, and it's gonna be called Blood
yeah.
Fuck.
Okay, let's do it.
But I imagine that like Subspecies 5 is incredibly low budget, using a shitload of stock footage from previous movies. Maybe, do you think the subspecies come back in Subspecies 5?
No.
No.
Like, why would they? Why would they? Why would they come back?
That's what I want. Like, what would get me into this franchise is to actually have a movie about the subspecies creatures, because those are the coolest parts. And it's only out of 4 movies, it's only about 7 minutes total that they're in it, but those 7 minutes are the best parts of all of these.
And what's interesting, we don't get any lore as to what the subspecies actually are. Like, we literally don't know. It's just like, is it Radu's blood? Like, what makes Radu so special that when he bleeds, he can bleed these subspecies creature? Doesn't appear like any other vampire can do anything like this. Is it, the weird sorcerer mummy vampire hybrid gives him these special powers? Again, we don't know because the movies don't tell us anything. And when they do, it contradicts things that happened before. So I don't know. We're gonna finish out the Subspecies franchise proper with Blood Rise on the next Full Moon Fridays, and after that, we're gonna finish out, I guess, the whole franchise. If you want to consider Vampire Journals part of the franchise, Radu's mentioned in it, so I suppose it must be. So we'll do Vampire Journals, and then I guess we'll just wrap up and what our final thoughts on this are. But I'm leaning towards you, Steve. I love the style of the first 2, but I don't think there's any real story to any of this stuff, and I don't think there's a Full Moon fan out there that could actually honestly tell us why Radu is a powerful vampire, why he needs the Bloodstone. Why do any of these people want the Bloodstone? Why does Dr. Blood want the Bloodstone? Why does, like, oh yes, give me 3 drops so I can do science with it. What are you going to science with this stuff? Like, what? To kill all vampires somehow with this? Like, what is happening? They don't say anything. It's pissing me off. So with that, folks, send us an email, outpostunknown@gmail.com. If you know what the fuck is happening in the Subspecies franchise or what it all means, let us know, or leave a comment down below. Tell us what's going on, because we are confused, and Radu kind of sucks. I like the first 2 movies. I'm going to say it. Radu's a shitty vampire. He's really, really bad.